I never imagined I'd be that person, the one their own family takes advantage of, chews up, and tosses aside, all while pretending everything's fine and handing over every dime like some clueless idiot. But that's exactly who I became. For years. And I didn't even question it until that one night when Lindsay, my sister, called me by mistake. It was late, probably around 10, and I'd just wrapped up a grueling shift. My phone buzzed with her name, which instantly felt strange. She never reached out that late. Half asleep, I answered with a groggy hello, but there was no reply. Just faint voices in the background, some laughing, glasses clinking together. A party? That was odd. They rarely included me in any kind of gathering. I was about to hang up, but then I heard my name. Can you believe Julia still thinks she's actually helping us? That was my mom's voice, cold, smug, laced with mockery. Lindsay laughed in response. She acts like she's some kind of savior or something. My stomach dropped. Like we'd even have a roof over our heads without her, Lindsay added. Then Brandon, my brother, jumped in with a chuckle. Technically, we wouldn't. He sounded so matter-of-fact. That's her job anyway. She owes us. No kids, no husband. What else is she gonna do with her money? My whole body went cold. Owes them? Mom scoffed again. It's not like she's paying out of love. We made her do it. What was she supposed to do? Let her family struggle? She said it like it was a filthy suggestion. That's why we should ask for more, Lindsay added without a shred of hesitation. Didn't she just get a raise? She can handle it. Brandon let out a low whistle. Luxury apartment. New car. Trips here and there. She's doing just fine. Meanwhile, they were apparently pinching pennies for the latest iPhone. Exactly, Lindsay huffed. She's so selfish. If she really cared, she'd be covering more than just rent. Groceries, bills. Mom's spa appointments. My stomach twisted. All that money I'd been sending over, thinking I was helping, turns out it was funding their lifestyle, their little comforts, their arrogance. I wanted to hang up right then. I wanted to yell. But instead I sat frozen, fingers aching from clutching the phone, listening as the people I had sacrificed everything for tore me to shreds like I meant nothing. My mom sighed dramatically. What's she gonna do? Stop paying. The room burst into laughter. My jaw clenched and I felt my blood starting to boil. They really thought they had me cornered. They believed I couldn't live without them. They thought I'd never walk away. They had no clue what was really coming. I didn't say a word. Just kept the phone pressed to my ear, heart pounding like a drum inside my head. The call was still live. They didn't know I was hearing all of it. Lindsay laughed sharply, her usual mocking laugh that always made me feel like I was the punchline. Remember when she actually tried to say no? That one time. Brandon snorted. Yeah, like few years ago? Tried setting boundaries or whatever. My mom made a dismissive sound. Didn't take long to get her back in line. One guilt trip and she was crawling back to help again. Lindsay gave a theatrical sigh. She's just too soft. Doesn't want to be the bad guy. That's why we always win. Something inside me twisted hard. Violent. This wasn't a family working together. It was a sick little game for them, a power trip where I was the pawn. Brandon's tone turned smug. She's easy to read. Thinks if she just keeps sending money, we'll suddenly appreciate her. Like, thanks for the rent, but that doesn't mean we have to like her. I didn't even realize how tightly I was gripping the phone until my hands started to cramp. Then Lindsay's voice turned all sweet and fake. I mean, she could be more fun, you know? We're family. But nope. She's all work. No life. No personality. Just a bank account. Mom made a noise of agreement. At least she's good for something. And that was the breaking point. But I didn't flinch. I didn't move or even breathe. I held onto the phone. I bit my tongue and kept listening. If they thought I was weak, if they believed I was predictable, then I'd give them the performance they expected. For now. Anyway, my mom went on, her tone light and casual. We should probably have a talk with her soon, my mom said. Rent's about to go up and she's gonna need to cover the difference. Brandon groaned. Ugh, she's gonna make that face again. The one where she acts like she's barely scraping by. He let his voice drop into a whiny imitation. Oh no, I just can't swing it. Lindsay burst out laughing. She's got the money. She just doesn't want to let go of it. Exactly, Mom snapped. She needs to realize we've got needs too. Needs? Yeah, sure. But they weren't talking about real stuff like groceries, medicine, or heat. No, they meant all the extras, the luxuries they chose over handling basic bills. Lindsay made a TSK sound. You know she's been kind of slow with sending money lately. Maybe we should start bugging her earlier in the month. Brandon laughed. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe toss in a we're barely getting by sob story for good measure. Lindsay jumped in. Oh, and Mom, you should cry again. That always seals the deal. Mom chuckled softly. Of course, honey. I know exactly how to play it. And there I sat staring blankly at the floor, feeling the whole world shift under my feet. They were proud of it, proud of conning me, bleeding me dry, and then joking about it like I was some clueless idiot. And they were convinced I'd just keep letting it happen. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. Then finally I spoke. Hello. Dead silence. Complete. Thick. I looked at my phone's dark screen, thumb hovering over the call log like I needed to confirm that I'd actually just heard all that. It hung up the second I said a word. No backpedaling. No excuse. Not even a stutter. Just click. I pictured them all frozen in that overly decorated living room of Mom's, the smug laughter dying on their lips. She heard us. But the phone stayed quiet. No hasty call from Lindsay, no fake apology from Mom, no panic text from Brandon. Nothing. Not because they regretted it, but because they were busted. I drew in a slow breath, my hands still trembling as I set my phone down on the table. My brain was spinning, going back over every word, every insult, every time they picked me apart like I was just some money machine they could shake. But I didn't cry this time. Not a tear. I sat there calm, fingertips tapping the table like I was keeping rhythm with a plan that was starting to take shape. They thought they had me pegged. Thought I'd just sweep it under the rug, keep the money coming like always. But they didn't know what I had in mind. I could already see their faces when that next rent payment never showed. The shock. The nerves. The way they twisted around and act like I was the one letting them down. But I wasn't gonna cut them off right away. No, that'd be too clean. Too easy. They still thought they were in control, and for now I was fine letting them think that. I picked up my phone and scrolled through our family group chat. It was nothing but thinly disguised handouts. Mom's latest medical issue, Lindsay's urgent spa day, Brandon's never-ending car drama. I typed a message. Hey, sorry, my phone glitched and dropped the call. Everything good? Sent it. A few seconds later, I saw the typing bubble pop up. Lindsay replied, oh haha yeah, just bad signal. We weren't talking about anything important, lol. Liar. I stared at the message, watching that blinking bubble flicker again. She was hesitating. Probably wondering how much I'd heard. Then another text. Anyway, Mom wants to talk to you soon. Maybe this weekend? I smiled. There it was. The bait. They were already setting up their next ask. I cracked my knuckles, my pulse steady, the fog in my head long gone. This weekend? I thought. Sure. I'd play along. And when they leaned in with open hands expecting me to keep playing their game, I'd rip the whole rug out from under them. Let's see how they managed without their safety net. The weekend rolled up quicker than I expected. Over the next few days, I kept it cool. Answered their messages like usual. Gave them no reason to think anything had changed. Lindsay was the most chatty, filling my phone with updates about her stressful life, fresh manicure, shopping trips, fancy dinners. Brandon kept it short, mostly acting friendly enough so that he could slip in a money request when the time came. And Mom? She knew exactly how to play her part. Hi honey, she texted. Just checking and hope you're doing okay. Love you. That kind of message used to tug at my guilt and make me question myself anytime I even thought about saying no. But now? Now it was just another move in their tired routine. They were so predictable it almost made me laugh. Saturday rolled around and I drove over to Mom's place, or really the place I'd been paying for all this time. As soon as I pulled into the driveway, that old mix of anxiety and excitement started building up in my chest. But I wasn't there to argue. Not yet. I was there to watch. I wanted to see how they'd try and twist the story this time. I walked in without knocking, just like they were used to. That small act gave them the sense I was still wrapped up in their little web. The air inside smelled like overpriced candles and fresh takeout. Mom was curled up on the couch under some ridiculously expensive blanket, sipping tea like she was prepping for a family intervention. Lindsay was slouched nearby, half distracted by her phone. Brandon sat at the kitchen island, chewing on something that looked a little too fancy for someone supposedly broke. They didn't have a clue. Mom looked up at me with that warm smile that used to make me feel safe. Now I just saw the strings attached. There you are, sweetheart, she said gently. We were just talking about you. I'll bet you were. I returned the smile, keeping my tone casual. Oh yeah? What about? She let out one of her dramatic sighs and set her cup down. Well, you know how grateful we are for everything you've done. You've really been such a blessing, helping with rent and all. Here it comes. Lindsay jumped in, trying to sound breezy. Yeah, we were just saying how wild rent prices are lately. It's honestly insane. Brandon gave a low whistle. Seriously? I don't even know how people manage. Mom's expression turned grave, her concern clearly exaggerated. The landlord's raising it again, she said. This time it's bad. I tilted my head and played along. Really? How much more? She hesitated, just for a second. A few hundred more each month. Lindsay cut in before I could say anything. Which isn't terrible, but once you throw in all the other bills, it's just too much, you know? Brandon sighed like he was carrying the weight of the world. And look, we hate to ask, but... And there it was. The moment. The ask. The part where they thought I'd just smile and say, of course I'll help. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to mull it over while watching them shift in their seats. Let em sweat. Mom leaned forward, her voice softer now, trying to sound sincere. Sweetheart, we wouldn't be asking if things weren't really tight right now. Lindsay let out another sigh. I've had to cut back on so much already. Cut back? She had literally posted about a designer handbag yesterday. Brandon shook his head like a man barely hanging on. We're just lucky you're around. Most people don't have a sibling who cares this much. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. They were laying it on so thick it was almost theatrical. Mom reached out, laid her hand on mine, and gave me that soft, guilt-laced tone she'd used my whole life. So, do you think you could help cover the increase? Just until we figure things out. I let the silence hang. The tension in the room was heavy, their expectations practically humming in the air. They thought I was about to cave, just like every other time. Then I looked up, met Mom's eyes, and smiled. Of course, I said. Her relief was instant. She looked like she'd been holding her breath and finally let it go. Lindsay beamed. Oh my gosh, you're seriously the best. Brandon clapped me on the shoulder. Knew we could count on you. I just kept nodding, going along with the script they expected. Because what they didn't realize was that in a few short weeks, when rent came due, they wouldn't be getting another dime. What they'd find instead? An eviction notice. I wasn't their backup plan anymore. I was done carrying them. And honestly, I couldn't wait to see what happened next. The days that followed felt like I was waiting for the final scene of a play I'd already written. Every time they messaged me, I replied with a chuckle, tossed back a friendly comment, pretended like nothing was different. They had no idea I was setting the stage for everything to come crashing down. I kept my distance, but I was careful about it. Not too sudden. Not too obvious. If I pulled away too fast, they'd notice. They'd say I was acting weird, that I was being distant or ungrateful or cold. And then I'd be the villain in their story again. I wasn't about to give them that satisfaction. So I stuck to the script, replied to messages, played along with casual updates, and smiled when they tossed out fake concern. Every day, I went through the motions like nothing was different, even though, inside, something had shifted. Permanently. The truth is, I wanted to cut them off right away. After hearing everything they said on that call, I wanted to block their numbers, drain my bank account, and vanish. I wanted them to wake up and feel the full weight of what they'd done. But I knew better. This wasn't just about revenge. I wasn't trying to get even, I was trying to end it. On my terms. I wanted to make sure they really felt it. Not just the absence of money, but the absence of control. Because that's what this was really. Control. They convinced themselves I was the backup plan. The safety net. The dependable one they could always fall back on when they overspent, overreached, or overindulged. And for a while I played that role. Willingly. I thought I was helping. I thought they appreciated it. But that phone call, that one moment of carelessness where they let the mask slip, showed me exactly where I stood. The truth? They didn't need my help. Not really. They could have covered rent. Could have paid the bills. Could have lived within their means. But that wasn't how they operated. They wanted more. Always more. And once I started giving, they decided they were entitled to it. They didn't need my money. They expected it. That's the line I drew, clear and sharp. No more handouts. No more guilt. No more pretending. A week before rent was due, I got the call. I was sitting at the kitchen table, half watching my inbox fill with work emails when my phone lit up. The moment I saw Mom on the screen, my gut tightened. I knew exactly what this was. Still, I gave it a beat, pretending I wasn't sure before answering. Hey Mom, I said, keeping my tone flat, casual. Like nothing was out of the ordinary. even though my chest felt like it was about to burst. "Oh, thank God you picked up," she said, her voice tight and hurried. "Sweetheart, we're in a bit of a jam." "Of course you are. What's going on?" I asked calmly, like I had nowhere to be, like I hadn't already guessed every word that was about to leave her mouth. She launched into it, her voice smoothing out like she'd practiced the speech in the mirror. "You know how we were talking about the rent increase?" she began. "Well, the landlord's being really unreasonable. He's demanding the full amount, no negotiation, nothing." I nodded silently, even though she couldn't see it. I already knew the dance steps. "We're really struggling here," she said, and her tone dipped into that syrupy kind of concern she always pulled out when she wanted something. I said. Just enough to let her think I was following. "We're just asking for a little help," she continued, sliding back into that sweet tone. "Just enough to cover us this month. That's all. After that, we'll figure something out, I promise." There it was, the soft plea, the empty promise, the familiar pressure. The same script she'd used 100 times. I didn't say anything right away. I let the silence drag out. Let it grow awkward. I knew she hated that. I wasn't just buying time, I was watching her squirm. Even through the phone, I could feel her nervousness. She knew. On some level, she knew I wasn't the same easy target I'd been before. "So, what do you think, sweetheart?" she asked finally, her voice wrapped in that fake hope that used to hook me in. I took a breath and kept my tone even. "I think you're more than capable of handling this on your own." The pause that followed was almost comical. Like I'd short-circuited her brain. She didn't speak right away, probably hoping she'd misheard me. I continued, "I know you guys always find money for new stuff, like those trips or that dining room set you just bought. So I guess I'm just wondering why rent always seems to be the one thing that comes up short." Silence. Then finally she responded, voice softer now, "Sweetheart, we don't have that kind of money right now. You know it's not that simple." I almost laughed. "Not simple?" "No, it was exactly that simple." "It's only not simple because you made it that way," I said. "You've been living beyond your means for years, Mom. You've been using me to keep the ship afloat." "That's not true," she said quickly, her voice hardening. "You owe us. You know we've always been there for you." I froze. There it was. That line again. That belief. That debt they thought I owed them. Not love. Not support. A tab. An account. I let the words sit for a second. Let her hear the air between us. "Yeah," I said finally. "You were there when it was convenient. But I'm done being your ATM. I'm not your backup plan anymore. It's time you handled this on your own." Her voice cracked. "Sweetheart, please. We can't." I cut her off before she could launch into another act. "I've made up my mind," I said coldly. "I'm not paying this month's rent. You'll have to figure it out without me." Then I hung up. No argument. No apology. No explanation. Just the end. And for the first time in a long time I felt free. I ended the call before she could say another word. I didn't need to hear excuses or another round of "but we're family." I just sat there in the silence, heart racing, phone still in my hand. But it wasn't guilt I felt. No remorse. Just a strange stillness. Like the air right before a thunderstorm rolls in thick, charged waiting. I knew something was coming. They were going to panic. I knew it. Hell, part of me was counting on it. They had no backup plan. I'd made sure of that. This was the moment I'd been building toward. The real unraveling. And I was going to let them feel every second of it. Over the next few days, my phone lit up like it was on fire. Text after text from Mom. Missed calls from Dad, who usually stayed out of these conversations until it was absolutely necessary. Even Lindsay, who rarely inserted herself into the money talk unless she needed something personal, suddenly found her voice. "Can we please talk? We really need to figure something out. This is serious." I read every message. Let every call ring out. Not once did I respond. I flipped my phone on to Do Not Disturb, set it face down on the table, and walked away. I let the pressure build. Let them sit with it. The longer they had to stew, the more panic they'd get. And honestly, they deserved to squirm. Every fake thank you, every guilt trip, every time they laughed at how easily I caved, it all led to this. The day rent was due, the flood began again. Like clockwork. First it was Mom, then Dad, and then, finally, Lindsay again. Each call was a little more frantic than the last, the texts getting shorter, tighter, more desperate. But I held the line. It wasn't until around noon that I finally decided it was time to give them what they were waiting for, but not in the way they expected. I was sitting at my kitchen table, drinking lukewarm coffee, flipping through a grocery flyer I didn't need, when Lindsay's name popped up with another text. We really don't have anyone else to turn to. Please. Just this once. I didn't hesitate. I picked up the phone and called her directly. She answered before the second ring. Oh my God, thank you for picking up, she breathed. She sounded like she hadn't exhaled in days. We're in so much trouble. The landlord said if we don't pay in full by tomorrow, he's starting the eviction process. Her words spilled over each other, fast and breathless, like if she just talked long enough, I'd stop her out of pity. You know we can't afford this, she went on. Please just help us this one time and then I swear we'll figure something out. I let her go on. Let her dig the hole deeper. Let her build the case she thought might guilt me into stepping back in. But the only thing I felt was calm. Not cold but clear. I'd spent so many years letting them twist my emotions into something that worked for them. Shame. Obligation. Guilt dressed up as love. But now? It just felt like static noise. So I cut her off. You really don't get it, do you? She paused. The silence on her end was sharp, like she was trying to figure out where I was headed. What do you mean? I heard everything I said, my voice like ice. The other night. That call? Yeah, I heard all of you. The laughing. The comments. The way you talked about me like I was just a walking paycheck. Nothing. You said I owe you. You said I'm not doing it out of kindness but because you made me. You called me soft, predictable, like I was too scared to say no. The silence was louder than any scream. I could picture her standing there frozen, trying to piece together how much I'd heard, how much I knew. You think I didn't notice? I went on. You think I didn't realize you were all living well beyond your means and counting on me to keep it going? New clothes, vacations, dinners out, while I'm out here grinding and covering your rent every damn month. Her voice finally broke through. But we needed your help. Yeah, well maybe you should have thought about that before spending every dime on things you didn't need, I snapped. Let's be honest. You never needed me. You just wanted to keep the tap running. My words hung there, hitting their mark. I could hear her breathing, could feel the panic, the scramble for a response. But nothing came. She was trapped. The same way I'd been trapped all those years. Then in the background, I heard a voice I didn't expect. Mom. Tell her to stop being dramatic, she barked. Get her to help. Don't let her off the hook. I almost laughed. That was her instinct: pressure, guilt, manipulation. Business as usual. But this time, I was done playing. You know what? I said calmly. I'm out. I'm done. No more money. No more saving you from yourselves. No more being your punching bag. She tried to interrupt, but I wasn't finished. If you want to keep living like royalty on a peasant's income, you're gonna have to figure it out on your own. And good luck, because once you burn through what little you've got, reality's gonna hit hard. And then I hung up. No fanfare. No dramatic pause. Just silence. I turned off my phone, set it aside, and stared out the window as the weight lifted from my chest. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was just free. Months passed. Not a single word from them. No apology. No attempt at understanding. Nothing. They were too proud to admit they'd messed up. Or maybe they still didn't get it. Maybe they still thought this was just a phase and I'd come crawling back eventually. Then one day my phone buzzed. A text. From Lindsay. The rent's due again. That was all it said. No hello. No apology. No acknowledgement of what happened. Just another request. Like nothing had changed. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't respond. I didn't even open it. A few days later, one from Mom. Can you please help us this one time? We're really struggling. Then Dad tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Not one of them said sorry. Not one of them asked how I was doing or admitted they were wrong. They just needed me to be what I always was, the safety net. But that net's been cut loose. For good. I kept ignoring their calls. Their texts. All of it. I was finished. Whatever part of me that used to flinch at their disappointment or feel guilty for saying no, yeah, that part was gone. Burned out completely. Their arrogance, their constant entitlement, it had worn me down to the bone. And now nothing they said could change my mind. They hadn't changed. Not even close. Deep down, I don't think they ever really thought they'd have to. They were too used to me being the one to fix everything, to smooth things over, to open my wallet and make their problems disappear. But when I finally stopped playing that role, reality came knocking in hard. The landlord didn't waste time. From what I heard through a friend of a friend, they got the eviction notice not long after I cut the money off. And sure enough, it stuck. They were out. No last-minute rescue. No miracle check from me. Just the cold, hard truth of what happens when the gravy train ends. And I wasn't there to sweep up the mess. They didn't get a dime. Not a single penny. And I didn't offer so much as a word of comfort. No fake sympathy. No, I told you so. I just stepped away. Quietly. Cleanly. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't some big showdown with shouting and drama like in the movies. But honestly, that made it better. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't some loud, final argument. It's just walking away and leaving them to sit in the mess they made without you. And the best part? They never came back.